Over the last couple of weeks, there has been major talk about some superstar players potentially leaving Manchester City this coming summer in a huge squad overhaul. But who should actually go this summer and who should stay? That is the topic of today's video. Now, it's obviously been a really good 7 days for Manchester City. The result against Bournemouth in the FA Cup was huge, and they got the win against Leicester City last night. But this is currently the furthest they've been away from the top spot of the Premier League since July 2020. So the narrative around this side this season has been pretty mixed, to say the least. And it was just a month ago that Pep Guardiola said, we have an old team. A lot of the players within this squad are coming towards the tail end of their Manchester City career. But who would you give contracts to? I think there's some really interesting narratives, particularly in this forward line, particularly in the midfield with the likes of Kevin De Bruyne that we're going to look at today. And I think the goalkeeping situation is a really interesting place to start because all three goalkeepers are out of contract by the end of next summer. Ederson and Ortega have 1 year left on their deals come this summer, and Carson is out of contract this very June. So who would you renew? Because Ederson, in the summer, last summer, had major offers from Saudi Arabia. We cannot forget the fact that he was interested in going to Al Nassr. £50 million price tags were being talked about. And he is 31 years old now. Ortega is 32 years old now. Carson is 39 years old now. Do Manchester City need a new goalkeeper that's a little bit younger that can take the reins in the future? Potentially so. And clearly they're in the midst of a big squad overhaul, aren't they? I think they brought a lot of their summer business forward to the January window. It's the second highest spending January window in Premier League history behind Chelsea, of course, when they went absolute bananas and spent like £250 million. But a goalkeeper didn't arrive as part of that January recruitment team. I think one will in the summer. So I am going to suggest one of these guys leaves. Let's start with Ortega because he's actually put up 10 Premier League starts this season. It's more than I was expecting. Ederson has shared minutes. He's had injury problems. I still think Ederson is the better goalkeeper, and I definitely think he's better suited to this Manchester City side. If you think about pre-Ederson, they were having a lot of goalkeeping issues with the likes of Claudio Bravo. Joe Hart didn't necessarily suit the Pep Guardiola system, and Ederson was really the fix to that. I would probably, of the two, keep Ederson for 1 more year and try to find a buyer for Stefan Ortega. I think he's a really good goalkeeper, but at 32 years old, if a team, let's say in Germany, came in with an offer of 15 to 20 million pounds for a player who has 1 year left on his contract at that age, I think it would probably be prudent to sell him. The way I would reverse this, if Saudi Arabia came back in for Ederson to the tune of 30 to 40 million pounds, that's a lot of money in the coffers of City. Now, I know it's not as if they need money. They had 324 million pounds worth of PSR wiggle room at the start of this season, so they had loads of money in the bank. They spent just 24 million pounds last summer. This doesn't scream like it's gonna happen to me, but if Ederson went to Saudi, I also wouldn't be massively surprised. As for Scott Carson, he's done an amazing job at Manchester City. He's a huge personality around the dressing room, a homegrown player. Wouldn't be massively surprised to see him sign yet another 1 year contract extension. The appearances don't really come for the third choice goalkeeper at any club, do they? And Scott Carson, amongst the squad, is a huge man in the dressing room. I am actually going to say he signs a new contract extension. If he doesn't, then it'll be contract exit. But I might just keep him, you know. Okay, let's go to the right backs, and immediately you can see a bit of an issue. Kyle Walker is currently on loan at AC Milan. That is going to be made permanent. €5 million permanent transfer is expected to be confirmed over the next month or so. He'll be staying in Italy. I don't see any world in which he returns to Manchester. So that leaves just Rico Lewis in that right back slot. And for me, he isn't a natural right back. Really talented player. Pep Guardiola has given more minutes to Rico Lewis as a teenager than any other player he's ever coached at that age. There are issues over his 1v1 defending just because of his physical stature. He's not a tall guy. He's not physically strong. That's why Mateus Nunes has picked up a lot of minutes in that right back role. There's no doubt, though, his talent level is super high. He would be right in amongst my keep category. Another player you'd obviously keep is Ruben Diaz. Not loads of starts. I think it's 16 or 17 Premier League starts this season. So not his usual volume. He's had injury issues, but still an incredible defender when he is fit and available. He's put up the second fewest positional mistakes of any Premier League centre-back this season. He's constantly in the right zone, really underrated on the ball. He's a clear keep. Let's get another clear keep out the way. That's Kushinov. I feel like the first 10 minutes of his debut against Chelsea has set a totally incorrect tone for his overall start at Manchester City. The everyday man is still sort of laughing at him, when in reality I think he's put up some really impressive performances. He hasn't half been thrown at the deep end in massive games against the likes of Kylian Mbappe. His speed is really impressive. His aggressiveness, as we saw when he was at Lens, is excellent. I like Kushinoff a lot. Now we're getting into the meat and potatoes of the centre-backs, because there are 3 players here that I think are really interesting debates. That's Akanji, John Stones and Nathan Ake. Now 2 of these players have barely kicked a ball. John Stones, 500 minutes this season. Nathan Ake, 600 minutes this season of Premier League football. John Stones has started less games across the last 5 seasons in Premier League football than Luke Shaw has. The guy's injury record is so sad, because when he's fit and available, he is an unbelievable watch. He is so good on the ball. One of the best on the ball centre-backs we've ever seen in the Premier League, in my opinion. But this season has been so stop-start. You think of the injury, particularly at the Bernabeu, 8 minutes into the game. I think that was a massive defining factor in that fixture. He really can't be relied upon from a physical point of view to play more than 10, 15 games a season, which is a huge problem when you've got just 1 year left on your contract. Do you keep John Stones for his final year and allow him to leave on a free? Or do you try and find a buyer, maybe it's Saudi, maybe it's the US, maybe it's somebody in Italy, to pay a fee for him? I have to say, at 30 years old, I would try and eke out every last bit of John Stones. The centre-backs are very young at Manchester City coming through here. Kushinoff, very young. Vitor Reis, very young. I would try and keep John Stones. As for Nathan Ake, he's 29 now, and again, just so unlucky with injury. He's had so many problems across his Manchester City career. Surgery again this season. I think it's only in 2 of his 5 seasons at Man City he's put up over 1,000 Premier League minutes. For me, might well be one injury too many. I think there might be a buyer in the market for Nathan Ake at 29. I'm pretty sure a Premier League club would take him. On the other hand, I would probably keep Manu Akanji. You know, he has put up the 5th most minutes of any player in this Manchester City squad this season, which is almost hilarious because of the amount of time he spent out injured as well. But when he's fit and available, again, 94% pass accuracy, 7.5 progressive passes per 90. It's the best of any Man City centre-back this season. You look at his ability to play at left-back, right-back, centre-back. I've seen him play in defensive midfield for Man City. That versatility is key for me. These 2, though, you know, long-term, next season might well be their last at Man City. As for Vitor Reis, 19 years old. This is quite a hefty centre-back unit so far. You've obviously got Josko Gvardiol who can play in there as well. Is it worth loaning Vitor Reis? I don't think so. For me, Pep Guardiola's system requires such a degree of understanding that it's actually beneficial to keep players in and amongst the group when they first arrive. Now, some players that have come through the academy and have spent a long time in that system might benefit from getting some adult football in the Championship or low level of the Premier League. But I think when you first arrive in England, it takes such level of understanding that I would just keep Vitor Reis in and around the club. Simpson Pouze had loan offers in January, didn't he, from the likes of Zaragoza, I think from Championship clubs as well. Yeah, I would send him out on loan. He's been an academy player in part of that EDS squad. I think he's captained the EDS squad as well. Let's get him some senior minutes of men's football. Josko Gvardiol is a definite keep, isn't he? He's been one of the bright spots of Man City this season. He would go in there. Overall, though, when you look at that centre-back roster, it is quite stacked. And I think one of these 2 could easily drop into here if the right offer came in, to be honest with you. Because overall, and it's not necessarily their defence. We'll come on to the midfield, which has probably been Man City's biggest issue this season. But they're 9th in the table for expected goals against this season. They're 10th for actual goals conceded. They've got a worse defensive record than Manchester United this season. So something's got to change. Something's got to improve. I think a right-back is a definite need in the summer. Maybe one of these 2 drops down, and then we will talk about the midfield because that is where there are big problems. First and foremost, Calvin Phillips. He was signed for £50 million. He's on loan at Ipswich. He's got a contract till 2028. 14, 15 Premier League starts this season. I mean, this is a sell. Pep doesn't fancy him. Clearly, there's a problem there. I can see a Premier League side taking a punt, if not a high-end Championship club. Could he end up going back to Leeds? That would not be beyond the realms of possibility in my mind. Rodri, obviously keep. Current Ballon d'Or winner. How they have missed his presence in midfield this season. I mean, it's astronomical how much of an effect he has had on this side. As for Nico O'Reilly, he's done brilliantly Hasn't he? You'd have to say he's worked his way into this starting 11. We saw it against Leicester City playing at left back when he's naturally an attacking midfielder. I think his physicality definitely helps him break into the side quite quickly because he's much taller, much stronger. Amazing performance against Bournemouth. Game-changing performance in that 90 minutes, coming off the bench at half-time. So you would have to say that he's kind of, towards the back end of this season, forcing his way into being in the keep category. Earlier this season, you probably would have had him in the loan, but maybe Pep has found something. At the back end of this season, he could offer another option, that left-back role, because at the moment, you're only seeing Josko Gvardiol as the left-back in this current roster of defenders. You've got Kanji who can play there a bit as well, I suppose. But it's a very, very interesting little tactical quirk, isn't it, that Pep has picked up on towards the tail end of this season, and I'll be interested to see what happens in the summer. Okay, Matheus Nunes. Most used minutes this season as a right back. And look, it doesn't necessarily suit his game. He's being forced to play majorly out of position because of the lack of right back options in the squad. And I don't think Pep fancies him in centre mid. If we're honest, do you actually think Pep fancies him in there? He hasn't had the minutes, hasn't had the opportunities when the midfield has been bare. It has been so thin this season. We still haven't seen Matheus Nunes played in any of those midfield roles, really. He's a different type of player than Pep wants to utilise. At Wolves, he was putting up huge progressive carry numbers, huge take-on numbers, but that isn't how Pep wants his midfielders to work. For me, he doesn't quite fit. I think there will be massive interest from other sides though, Matheus Nunes, because if you could get back to that Wolves form that saw him sort of exploding onto the scene, there's a real midfielder in there. Mateo Kovacic, he's under contract till 2027, so he will have a couple of years left come this summer. I think he struggled again this season. There has definitely been bright moments for him in a Man City shirt. Thought when he first arrived, he fit quite naturally into that deep line position, replacement of Rodri, able to circulate the ball really well. You know, this is a player with 94% pass completion rate. When he's on the ball, it's hard to get him off it. But injuries haven't worked for him particularly well. A lack of minutes again has been an issue. This season, he's actually put up 19 Premier League starts, which was a bit of a surprise to me. And it's even more surprising that that is the most Premier League starts he's put up since 2020. So 5 seasons he hasn't put up over 19 starts. This is actually the 4th most starts of his professional career in a season, which is wild given he's 31 now. I think this might well be the time to cash in. If you can find a buyer, I think if you ask most City fans, and City fans I'm interested to hear from you, but would you be okay with letting Kovacic leave? Maximo Perrone is obviously on loan at Como at the moment, having a really good season, progressing the ball really well from deep positions in that Fabregas side. It might well be time to cash in. Maybe an Italian side sees his performances in Como and offers a bit of money. Ilkay Gundogan. When he arrived at the club this summer, the return, I was expecting big things, to be honest with you. I didn't think it could go too badly wrong. Just a free transfer. He had history of Pep Guardiola, but it just has not worked. I don't think he would have expected to put up, 1,500 minutes at 33 years old. He was probably expecting to come in as really a senior leadership figure in the dressing room, not play loads of games, try and coach some of the young players through. He's had to play loads of games. And unfortunately for him, in transition, the Premier League has been brutal this season. It has been so physically demanding. And Ilkay Gundogan has struggled when the game has got a little bit stretched. He's not physically able to cover huge swathes of ground, and that has exposed him. I think his contract's up. I will be really surprised to see it get renewed. Nico Gonzalez is obviously a player they were chasing for quite some time. They tried to sign him for the academy when he was at La Masia. His dad was involved in the club as well. They finally got their man. I think he's looked pretty decent since he's arrived at Manchester City. I think he'll look even better when he's playing alongside Rodri. It's not an easy adaptation period, that January window. He's a definite keep. Kevin De Bruyne is out of contract this coming summer, and this is the real big story, isn't it? Do you renew Kevin De Bruyne for 1 year, 2 years? Given his injury record this campaign, given his form, would you pay the money to do it? Now, he's actually 33 years old, Kevin De Bruyne, this season, and there's no doubt he has been maybe the best Premier League midfielder of all time. He's certainly in the conversation with the likes of Gerrard, Lampard, Scholes, Keane, Vieira. He's in and amongst that group as being the best of the best. And last season, when he came back from his injury, we noticed an immediate impact, didn't we? I think back really vividly to that Newcastle performance where he came off the bench, huge goal, huge assist for Oscar Bob. It was a wow moment. But he has had some major problems, notably with that hamstring. He basically played when that treble season was happening to the point of his body physically breaking down, didn't he? I think he actually came off in the final, if I remember rightly. And then he ruptured his hamstring, didn't he, against Burnley. Poor fella has basically put his body on the line for Manchester City over the years, and he's now coming back to bite him a bit. You look at his starts this season, it's just 12 starts in the Premier League. It's really, really low for Kevin De Bruyne. And the numbers have tailed off a little bit because of those injuries, because his legs have struggled. He doesn't look physically the player he once was when he was just able to glide past people. He was so aggressive off the ball. Hasn't quite happened for him. In fact, this season, only 2 other players in the whole Premier League have given the ball away per 90 more than Kevin De Bruyne. Now, in seasons gone by, that would have been justified. His output would have absolutely justified that. And his work off the ball, working, getting the ball back, scramble defence would have justified it as well. But unfortunately, his legs haven't been able to support him going the other way, and his output has really declined. He's currently putting up the lowest goals and assists per 90 of his Manchester City career, the second lowest expected goals and assists of his Manchester City career. When he's on the field, he is still creative. There's no denying that. But the output has subsided a little bit, and the off-the-ball work has really struggled this season. I have found it a tough watch at times because I love Kevin De Bruyne so much, and he has been a Premier League icon. It's been hard to watch him struggle. And I have to say, I think City will and should leave this decision totally down to Kevin De Bruyne. If he wants to stay for another season, they should let him. If you can get him to play 10 games a season against low-level opposition, he will still provide big moments in those games. But also, if he doesn't want to sign that contract and he does want to leave and he wants to try something new, maybe it's Saudi Arabia, maybe it's the MLS, totally fair enough. And I think that is what's going to happen. That would be my guess. But either way, one of the Premier League's greatest ever players. James McAtee has been a curious case this season because Man City have struggled in midfield and we still haven't seen loads of James McAtee, an incredibly talented player, capable of bits of genius. But there are questions over his consistency, and we've heard Pep Guardiola talk about that in the past. James McAtee has said as much, that he needs to be more influential in games, that when he was at Sheffield United, he wasn't necessarily a starter there either. And I wonder if that will come away from Manchester City. But personally, I still see a future for him. I would keep James McAtee. I think he's that level of talent that you've just got to keep hold of him. Phil Foden has had a really down year, hasn't he? Coming off the back of a Premier League Player of the Season last year. He was monstrous in that title win. He did absolutely everything right. Huge goals, huge moments, worked brilliantly off the ball. This season has struggled. It's been a huge dip-off in output. 27 goals and assists last season, 9 in the Premier League this campaign. That fall-off is quite wild, and it's not one that I would have predicted. I thought he was going to take up the mantle, drag Manchester City through this season with major injuries to players around him. We haven't really seen that, but let's not mess around. You keep Phil Foden. He'll be back next season. I'm absolutely convinced when the structure finds itself, finds its feet, Phil Foden will re-find his form. I think he is a bit of a system player, but Manchester City's system is perfect 9 times out of 10. If this is one of the weird seasons, next year I'm totally confident Pep will re-find it. Another player I think will have a much better season next year is Bernardo Silva. I think he has also struggled like Gundogan, like De Bruyne, with the exposure to the distances in midfield. They've been too big this season and he's had to work in massive spaces at his age. It doesn't suit him. Next year, when Rodri is back, when the midfield has much more cohesion, a couple more signings, and he has to play less minutes, I still think there is big roles for him to play in the dressing room as much as on the field. You can't get rid of all of your key aging players. Bernardo Silva is a keep for me. Let him run his contract out. It's out in 2026. Unless some huge offer came in from Saudi Arabia, which I don't think it will, you keep Bernardo Silva at this stage. He's had huge offers in the past that you've said no to. I don't see any clubs coming in, PSGs, etc., that have been there in the past, Barcelona's, for huge bids. Okay, Echeverri is in the same boat, I think, as Vitor Reis. I would want him in and around Pep Guardiola, learning the structure, learning the system, keep him there. I know some people at home will be saying, loan him out, loan him out. He's barely had any time to work in this structure. I don't think it's a huge benefit to let him go on loan to Wigan. Okay, let's talk about Doku, because he is putting up huge take-on numbers still. The best dribbler in Europe. Statistically, anyway, he tries more take-ons, completes more take-ons than pretty much any other player. But they don't always result in goals. This is a player who's averaging 6+ take-ons a game. 13 he put up against Liverpool famously this season. But his actual end product still leaves a little bit to be desired, doesn't it? His best ever league goal scoring season is 6. Last season, he scored 3. This season, he scored 3. His assist numbers have dropped off from last season. So I think it's an area of the game which he really needs to work on. But that ability in 1v1 moments is a rare, rare trait. And I have to say, I would stick with Doku. I know some City fans sort of questioning whether or not he's got a long-term future because of the output. Give him another season. Savio, for sure, will be in my keep category. I think he's one of the most talented young players in European football. 9 goal involvements in his first Premier League campaign. That's fine. He'll definitely be looking to improve on it next season. But I really think he's grown into that Man City shirt across the course of the campaign. At just 20 years old, he's in the top 20% of European wingers for expected goals and expected assists. Top 10% for dribble success rate. And he's just a beautiful player to watch. Playing on that right-hand side, coming in. There's a hint of the Mahrez about him, but with Brazilian flair. I really, really like Savio. Great to see Jack Grealish get a goal and dedicate it to his late brother, wasn't it? It's his first Premier League goal in 16 months against Leicester City, and he certainly had his struggles this season. At 29, he's got a contract till 2027, and this season, he's got just 1 assist. 1 assist in the Premier League. 1 assist last season in the Premier League. And a large part of that is down to not getting on the pitch enough again. Just 7 Premier League starts through a mixture of non-selection and injury. And he's definitely taken a little bit of flack publicly, hasn't he? I remember around Christmas, Pep Guardiola said, Savinho is in better shape and everything than Jack, and that's why I played him. Now, for me, that's quite a bad dig at Jack Grealish to say he's in better shape, and you haven't really seen Pep say anything similar since those quotes. But there has still been a narrative publicly that things going on off the field have affected him on the field. Now, we don't know, do we? We've never been able to comment on what is affecting Jack Grealish because at the end of the day, he's won trophies there. He's been a success there. He's a treble winner there. All of that has happened when he had the same personality then as he does now, which people are using as a stick to beat him. But I think there is a case to say, look, he started just 30% of Manchester City's available games since the treble winning season. And that is an issue when you're on the wage that Jack Grealish is on and you're as high profile as Jack Grealish is. And with a contract up in 2027, there might well be options this summer on the table for Jack. If a club came in this summer for £40 million, 40 million pounds, I think Man City would consider selling Jack Grealish because of the lack of minutes. Not necessarily down to his output, because I think in terms of how Pep wants his wingers to play, that is Jack Grealish's style. That pauser, coming back inside, winning fouls. I just feel like I want to see Aston Villa Jack again. I love Jack Grealish as a player. He is an awesome footballer on the ball. I kind of want to see it again. Oscar Bob, so unfortunate at the start of the season. It felt like it was going to be a huge breakthrough campaign for him. But he broke his leg, didn't he? Yeah, for me, this is going to be a keep. He is an electric footballer on his day, and next season is going to be huge for him. The front two are both tap-ins, really, aren't they? Omar Mamouche, really impressive start to his campaign at Manchester City. I think he looks a fantastic player, either as a 9, a second striker. And with Erling Haaland going to miss the next 7 weeks or so of the season, which is a huge blow for Man City, he's going to have to take up the mantle. Haaland is an obvious keep. Let's not mess around. Don't be stupid. He's one of the 3 best strikers in world football. But Omar Mamouche, exceptional. Okay, so that was my mini squad audit of Man City. I think there are a few debatable ones. One of these 2 could easily drop down to here. KDB, I could see staying as much as I could see leaving on a contract. That should be up to him. But what do you guys at home think? If you enjoyed this video, please do let me know. Hit the like button, hit subscribe. I'll see you later. Goodbye.